The next slide. Enter.
So the talk, the title?
No, the arrow does not work. The title is Developing Research Ethics Capabilities in an Organization. Yeah, I tried, but it does not work. So which program? I think it should be. Okay. So the idea is we are talking about academic ethics and research ethics. The idea is that when we do research, there are ethical considerations that people need to be aware of. And in the university, there is a mandate or something like something that is suggested for the university or for the research organization in such a way that people follow ethical guidelines. And this is what my talk is all about. And I will firstly talk about the distinction between the two. It's not much of a distinction. People can talk about academic ethics and research ethics like interchangeably. However, there are some differences that we can talk about that I will elaborate later on. So how important is it? And then cases of violations of research ethics and academic ethics. And then a solution and then a conclusion. So what is academic ethics? The idea at first is that we are talking about ethical issues in an academic setting. You know, this is obvious in the university, in teaching and learning. So this is very broad. So a student may cheat in an exam. This is a case of violation of academic ethics. The teacher may put forward their political agenda, and this has actually happened in Thailand. The teacher is putting forward their own political agenda, and they try to recruit the students into their own agenda. And this is also a violation of academic ethics. In general, this is the broadest definition. Ethical guidelines in consideration with academic institution. So this is what I mean by academic ethics. In more details, I'm talking about investigation of ethical norms governing the conduct of research. So research is part of what is happening in the academia, of course. Mostly in the sciences, but not exclusively in the sciences, with an aim to uphold the standard of scientific knowledge. So people do research, then there are norms governing how people should do their research. They should follow the standard in such a way that their results are reliable and trustworthy in such a way that people can treat the results as evidence of scientific knowledge. So it also involves monitoring and reviewing cases of research misconduct. So research misconduct is a term that is commonly used to talk about the violation of norms governing research ethics or academic ethics. So this is what I'm talking about here. And also the process of reviewing, finding facts and taking administrative or disciplinary action. For example, in the context of teaching and learning, suppose a student cheats in an exam, and this is very, very kind of a common example. Suppose a student cheats in an exam and he is caught. So there is administrative or disciplinary action for the student. Every university has that, and this is part of academic ethics. So we can look at the issue broadly into categories, teaching on the one hand and research on the other. For us who are faculty members who do research in an academic setting, we are more interested in the research part. For students, of course, if they do not focus on the research yet, their interest or the issues that concern them is mostly on the first side, ethical issues concerning teaching and learning and taking exams and so on. So the more important is the first one where we talk about research misconduct. So academic ethics and research ethics, there are some kind of overlapping meanings. What I have talked is about academic ethics, which is a more kind of inclusive, broader meaning. But when people talk about research ethics, there are two meanings. One is the issue I'm talking about, when people fabricate their data, for example, they want their results to be what they would like to see, right? And then they do something that violates the ethical norms. That is one part of research ethics. The part of research ethics that is involved with the process of doing research. But there is another part of research ethics that one might have heard in other settings. It concerns research ethics, doing research in consideration or in relation to human subjects. So, for example, you do experiment, whatever kind of experiment on human beings. You do questionnaires, or in biomedical sciences, you take blood samples of people. There are issues that need to be considered when you are allowed to do kind of an intervention on the human subject. So this is another part. So what I say on the slide is that the meanings of the two terms are mostly overlapping, but academic ethics is more used in the context of scientific or research misconduct. That is one meaning that I have already talked about, where research ethics is used more in relation with research on human subjects. So academic ethics is related more to the process of doing research itself. I hope I make the issue clear, because people sometimes confuse the two terms. So why is it very important? Academic ethics governs the norms of scientific methodology, so this is the issue I am talking about in this paper. It is crucial for maintaining the credibility of the research and its status as useful, citable piece of scientific knowledge. And this is very basic, right? If you fabricate your data, or if you violate the norms of methodology, it's very unlikely that your results or your findings will become part of scientific knowledge, because it is the credibility, the status as part of knowledge is very questionable from the beginning. However, one might think why scientists still violate these ethical norms. If we ask them whether they know that these actions do violate ethical norms, I think most of them know that what they are doing is wrong. But in an atmosphere of publish or perish that we are having in the university, where if you don't publish, then you don't have a chance for promotion. There's often a pressure for the scientists to perform, and in many cases, they are in a position of power, meaning they run a lab and they have a lot of assistants. And sometimes they ask their assistants to do something that do not follow the norms of the best practice in research. And there are many examples. So there is a tension between the need to maintain integrity, following the norms, and to yield to the pressure. So this explains why such cases actually happen also in Thailand, but in Thailand it is a bit difficult to get the cases because people are not willing to speak up. So there are cases of common misconduct, and these are standard ones. Sorry, I'm having a bit of cold, so my voice is plagiarism, fabrication, falsification, authorship issues. So guest authorship means you invite somebody to have their names as an author of your paper, where the one you are inviting does not have any role to play in the paper. So you just invite them, you like to give them some favor, maybe thinking that they might return your favor later on. So guest authorship. And gift authorship is about the same thing. You have usually when people talk about gift authorship, it usually concerns somebody who you know very well. For example, a team of husband and wife, and they are both academics. And perhaps, or in some cases, the husband does not have much to do with the research, and the wife does most of the work. But the wife wants her husband to have a chance for promotion, so the wife puts the name of her husband. This has actually happened. The wife put the name of her husband, who is, as I said, also an academic, as co-authors. So it's a case of gift authorship. The wife gives authorship to her husband. But since the husband does not have any role to play, or very minimal role in the research, it violates ethical norms. So this is a case of misconduct. And ghost authorship is a strange one, and it's happening quite a lot, especially in Thailand, where the real author of the research, the one who does all the work, so to speak, does not have their names printed in the journal at all. And the one who has their name printed is the one who employs the ghost. You see the picture, right? It happens all the time, especially in Thailand. Yeah.
My sister-in-law works at Cambridge University, and she says it's a huge problem. Ghost authorship of undergraduate work and postgraduate work, even PhDs now.
Right. So that's why we are combating this problem and find ways to maintain integrity, so to speak.
It's also big business.
Yeah. In Thailand too. And then there are misconduct issues concerning publication, and there are many of them. For example, one common case of misconduct in relation to publication is that an author sends out 2 or more copies of the same paper to different journals. So this is a misconduct because the idea is that publication is kind of a rare space, and when you submit your paper to more than one journal, and if they publish both articles, so it becomes a bit difficult to cite, and then there will be cases of plagiarism, allegations of plagiarism, because you have essentially the same paper published in more than one place. And there are other issues. So these are the common cases of misconduct. There are famous cases, and this website talks about 10 greatest cases of fraud in university research, and you can the URL is not complete here, but you can do your own search on Google. The website is onlineuniversities.com, and you can just look at these 10 greatest cases. I don't have time to list all the 10, but you have the picture. This is the complete URL in case you are interested. It's a bit long. 10 greatest cases of fraud in university research. Sorry.
Unlucky, Anthony.
Yeah, this one. And then this is the research that I am doing this year. I was asked by the National Science Policy Commission of Thailand to do a project on research misconduct in Thailand and how to combat it, and to search for causes that explain why there are misconduct, and how to recommend actions to kind of lessen, diminish them. So it has been going on for some months, and it's a 1-year project, and I'm supposed to give them the final report, the middle of next year. So it is still ongoing. And what I'm interested in is to look for cases in Thailand. What I plan to do, I managed to gather some cases, from the ones I trust and the ones that they trust me. They give me a number of cases which are really good, and what I plan to do is to collect them and then put it up on a website, and then list a number of questions so that students can learn about these cases, and then they can start their own discussion based on the questions. The idea is that we are not just telling them that this is wrong and should not be done, but we kind of ask questions so that the students can reflect on their own and see by themselves why this is wrong, why this kind of jeopardize the standard of scientific knowledge and so on. So that's the idea, that's part of the project I'm doing. And I say it's hard to find because so far I have managed to get only 4 or 5 cases, which is what I expect from the beginning, because people are not so eager to come out and blow the whistle and kind of talk about their colleagues and so on. But I think that as time goes on, more people will be willing to come up and talk about what is happening. That's one part of the project. Another part I'm thinking is to do a questionnaire where the main idea is not as much finger pointing or blowing the whistle as to just answer questions, standard questionnaire questions, something like, whether you have known your colleague to be violating these norms or this kind of thing. You know something about fabrication or falsification or this kind of thing. And I'm teaming up with a colleague who know much more than I do about doing questionnaires and how to analyze data. So hopefully we will get something out of that. This is more like a policy issue. This is when all the data of the project have been analyzed. And this could form kind of a part of the recommendations as to how to combat the problem. So it's about teaching ethics as an integral part of every research program. Correct method of teaching instead of just telling people what is right or wrong, what needs to be done, what needs to be avoided. Like in Thailand, people do that all the time. We should encourage critical thinking, as I have already said. Students should be given opportunity to think by themselves, what is right or wrong, so that they understand the rationale behind it. And then there should be review of the process of research from time to time or every time, where the researcher is required to take notes about the stages of their research, and the notes should be made, available to others, not kept secret, so that the researcher becomes more transparent in what they are doing. And then here they have this in the US. Office of Research Integrity, and many people believe that Thailand should have the same kind of office. It's the office you go to, for example, when you know of your colleague that they are doing some kind of misconduct, and you go to his office and then you kind of talk about what your colleague is doing. And the office itself has or should have the power to start investigation on their own. Essentially, it's the office that has the responsibility of maintaining that the institution is ideally free of misconduct, and they can investigate a case and then they can recommend to the president. For example, if the office belongs to the university, like July, the office can investigate a case and then make a recommendation to the president that such and such faculty, such and such professor is doing such and such thing, and it's up to the administrator, like the president, to take action, so like to take administrative measures. And then exposure means we don't have, or we don't want to have a negative or bad exposure, like in Korea there used to be a very bad or very famous case of a very well-known professor who has engaged in misconduct regarding stem cell research, and it's a worldwide news for some time. We don't want that, but exposure as a way to solve the problem here means the public should be made, should become involved, and when should have a say in kind of maintaining integrity of the research of the work of the scientists. Something like that. It has not been thought out much yet for this one. But this is kind of a preliminary idea of the recommendation that I gather from the literature. So, and what I need to do is to look at the specific material from what is happening in Thailand in order to kind of squeeze it, to fit the specific situation here. So that's all. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, comments?
Yeah. Can I ask a question? Make some comments.
Yeah.
Teaching of ethics. I've just done my PhD in Thailand.
Yeah.
So I had to do an ethics course
Yeah.
at Naresuan University. I wouldn't have been able to graduate without the certificate to show that I had completed that research ethics, I think it was called, course.
Yeah, you do something on human subjects, right?
Yeah, but
interviewing or questioning.
yes, I was,
Yeah.
and obviously I had
That's
to get
required.
consent forms and things.
Yeah.
Was that compulsory in Thailand, or is that not the Naresuan University trying to up its standards?
compulsory.
It is compulsory, yeah.
Yeah. Because if you don't do that, if you don't pass your ethical review, it's not possible for you to publish your finding in a journal, in a standard journal, so to speak. So Thailand is following the international norm. Yeah.
So when you're mentioning about gift, goes to like the idea, gift, and what was the first one? Guest and gift. I wondered about papers where research students have written the paper, done the research, and probably one of their advisors has been closely involved in that.
Yeah.
But other advisors are tagged on because they have to have a certain number of advisors or committee members. And yet, in reality, they have very limited input.
So the idea is that if somebody has a very limited input, and if we want to talk about them, we should be talking about them in an acknowledgement section, not as a co-author.
So I thought that's probably very widespread. And I don't mean just in Thailand, but I'm sure that there are.
I heard of it quite a lot.
In Thailand, though, I think your idea of an anonymous survey would be very good. I'm not sure about if it's a Google Doc, whether Google can translate, whether you can work out who's been responding. That's the only problem. You might need to do a survey using not using Google, I don't know.
Yeah, usually when you do surveys or questionnaires, you don't ask for names.
No, you don't, but if you're doing it online, it might well tell you the server it's come from, and therefore people might not. I know that within my organisation, people have at times said they want to specifically remain anonymous, and we haven't used Google surveys for that reason. People perhaps maybe misconceptions of what they can say and can't say. But by doing anonymous surveys, we've much more upped the depth of response people have given.
People find it more convenient to do online.
Convenient and less less confrontational, so they feel they can be more honest, more open.
And there can be a way to erase the identity. I don't know if it's a technical issue.
I think that's something you can check.
Researcher has no way to know IP number or traceable identity.
When you said that there's going to be an Office of Research Integrity, possibly monitoring, it reminded me of a Hollywood movie called Enemy of the State. And in there, at one point, the wife of this guy says,
"What's the same way?
Who is going to be monitoring the monitors?"
Yeah.
So, will the Office of Research Integrity be open to bribery or corruption itself, and who's going to monitor them?
It's a very serious issue for Thailand. The idea is that nobody is above being monitored themselves. So this office has to be accountable to
somebody else,
board of the university or something.
And my last thought was when you said exposure, I remembered in Cambodia going to a little village outside Siem Reap, and there was a bus stop where there was lots of tourists would change bus to either go down to Phnom Penh or somewhere else. And at this shop, there's photos of all these people with their shirts off. And I asked, "What are these?" And they said, "Oh, they're photos of people who've been caught shoplifting." So I think maybe that sort of exposure might not be good, but statistics, if you can let the public know that, hey, this year X number of academics have been this X number, rather than individual names like that poor man in Korea. But if the profile of the number of unethical practices is raised, it will be a deterrent for other people to be included in those statistics.
That's a good idea.
Or, I mean, if you want to take photos of teachers with their shirts off, because that would certainly put people off.
For scientists, maybe we can find a way to do the same without embarrassing them too much.
I think that there's a risk of it if it's complete exposure, you're going to wreck somebody's career and possibly lead to all sorts of horrific health or mental health.
A sensitive issue.
And it could be just for an unethical practice. But
has to be
you want to teach them, not
careful.
Exactly.
Other comments or questions? Please go ahead.
This is a way to solve the problem. So in our things still not happen yet.
The misconduct has happened.
But
from time to time.
You find a way to solve the problem. And the one who now we don't have the Office of Research Integrity.
We don't have it in Thailand.
What things do we have in Thailand?
The idea is that perhaps we could follow what they have it in the US. So one idea might be okay to have such an office in Thailand, but then we have to be careful as
So now in
we
Thailand,
monitor the monitoring.
and in Thailand, what's a really happening when people do the research, right?
Yeah.
Just go on, no organization push it. Yes,
No formal organization yet, but if people know about misconduct going on, they can go to the head of the president. So they have to take care of the matter. This is what is happening at Juฬาand other universities or research organizations. So, and they are not. They have to take care of everything inside their university anyway. They are presidents, right? But they are not specialized. The idea is to have a more specialized organization.
Also independent.
Independent from the researcher.
But now they have documents that okay, clean outfit, check everything. Something is correct.
Right. And they have to do everything. They have to do, email. They have to do personnel. They have to do budgeting. They have to do the buildings, the utilities, the water, electricity, everything.
I presume there's also issues of journals themselves doing unethical practice by publishing without reviewing or
publication ethics.
yeah.
So another big area because some journals won't get more money. They charge a lot. They don't review the papers.
And there are journals without also perhaps access to within their own editorial board of people who've got time or sufficient expertise to be truly reviewing at their level. And there's more and more publications springing up in every country.
Something that we need to be concerned, careful.
Yep, it's a global issue. Thank you very much, Soraj.
Thank
So
you.
we hope it's solved. Thank you.
Yeah.